What's going on, everyone? So there's a lot going on your screen right now. First of all, I'm not wearing a hat, and if you're not new to this channel, you realize that I always wear a hat, but I got a haircut this morning, it looks awesome, and I got to shoot this afternoon, so I don't want to ruin it with hat head. And second of all, more so what this video is actually about is what's going on behind me. This is a kind of the setup that I've put together for the B-roll for an Andycine A6 Plus monitor review. So we're gonna actually talk about the monitor towards the end of this video, but I was experimenting with light and all that kind of stuff, and I was like really excited how this B-roll turned out. So I figured I'd make a video and kind of show you how I created the overall look of this B-roll, and maybe you can use it for inspiration for some B-roll for your videos, for product shoots or whatever the case may be. I want to mention, like, this is not in a big studio or anything like that. This is in a spare bedroom at my house, which I've kind of turned into my office. So yeah, you can really make this setup anywhere. It's pretty cool. So I'm going to give you a general overview of this whole room, and then I'm going to help kind of break down each of the aspects of the whole setup, from lights and camera and all that kind of stuff. So let's jump into it. First of all, the room, it's just a standard 4 walls room, nothing special about it. It's not sound treated or anything, probably should be, but I got roller shades on the 3 windows in this room. There is a little bit of light leak on these windows, but it's really not that big of a deal. The way I've got these lights cranked and all that kind of stuff, it really doesn't throw any light unnecessarily into this backdrop, which we'll talk about in a second. So yeah, that's what we've got here. Just standard room, nothing special about it. That's where I edit. So the first thing we'll talk about in this setup is this backdrop right here. This is just a little curtain that I bought at like Walmart, I don't know, a couple years ago. And finally got around to using it. So that's what this is. All I've got right here is it's kind of like a waterfall setup, if you will. I got a C-stand right here, and then I've got the grip arm just going across this way, and I've actually got it connected to another grip arm. And then towards the end right here, I've got a little clip, and that's kind of wedged into the corner, and I've got it pulling tight this way over here. Then I've got this other clip just on the other side of this grip head, and I've got the curtain pulled kind of this way and the clip on this side of the grip head, and it just kind of keeps everything a little bit tight to create this cool little black backdrop. Now, it looks like a lot of light leak is happening right here. That's just because of this overhead light, which was actually off during when I was filming the B-roll. I just got it on right now to kind of see everything. So moving on to the light, I have the Godox SL60W right here, and this is just on a light stand that's kind of behind this curtain. And yeah, found the light for like $100 on Black Friday, so I was kind of stoked on that. In front of that, it's got the aperture Fresnel mount, because it has the same Bowens mount as the 120D and the 300D series lights. So I got the Fresnel mount right there, and then I've got the barn doors in front of that. I kept the honeycomb grid in just because I didn't feel like taking it out, and I have a full CTB gel from it's a Lee Filters CTB gel, full CTB, and then that is just spilling right onto here, onto this monitor, and it was actually throwing a little bit too hard of light for my liking on it. So what I did is I ended up putting this quarter white diffusion in there as well to kind of help soften that light a little bit. It did affect the output, obviously, so I ended up cranking this light up to 100% because I really wanted this light to kind of feel like the dominant light in the B-roll, and you can kind of see what I'm talking about right there. So yeah, what that's doing is that's just throwing this light right onto the back of this monitor here, and as you can see, consequently, it's throwing light kind of into this lens right here, which is helping giving some of this little lens flare right there, which I think looks really cool. And as you can see, behind the camera is this black poster board. And this is just like your standard science fair poster board. Yeah, and the reason why I have that there is because there's a white wall right here. And this light was throwing a bunch of light onto this white wall, and that was actually bouncing the light back onto this black diffusion, and I didn't want that. So I just kind of threw that up there as, you know, like a makeshift floppy, basically, to kind of cut that light and to kind of capture that light so it didn't reflect back onto this. So yeah, that's that. I'm sorry for the crazy whip pans. Hopefully you haven't gotten sick yet. This is the Aperture 120D Mark II in the Light Dome Mark II, and then I've got the honeycomb grid on there. And the reason why these things are so great is because this helps prevent light from spilling on to the backdrop. This really focuses the light coming to go straight down from the light. And what I've got that is got it really close to this just to create really soft light on this, and this just kind of acting as more of like an exposure lift and all that kind of stuff, and kind of a fill light. And it's kind of cool because the light is coming from this way, when I turn the monitor this way, it starts to kind of reveal what's over here. So it just kind of gives a cool effect to kind of reveal, you know, the whatever side that you're turning it. Yeah, looks kind of cool. So next up is this light right here. So I've got that at 43%. I forgot to mention that. I got that light at 43%. I got this at 100%. That light will be off. The next up is this light right here. This is the Aperture Amaran F7. And I've said this multiple times in my videos. This is probably one of my favorite lights ever because how versatile it is. So I've got it set up at 63% at 9500 Kelvin, and just to give more of a bluish hue. And it's just throwing a kicker just right here on the side of the monitor. Nothing crazy, super subtle, but just adds a little bit of an edge on this side. So I think it looks really awesome there. So that is kind of the lighting setup and kind of the backdrop and all that kind of stuff. So that's kind of how I've controlling the light and the look. And so we'll just talk about now the cameras that I'm using. So first, I got the Canon T200, and I'm shooting this in cinema raw light because why not? Got the Sigma 18-35, and I believe I'm at like f3.5 or something like that, just to give a little bit more depth of field. So yeah, some shots are a little bit less, especially when shooting 60p. You need to pull it down to like f2, but yeah, that's that. And then to monitor it, I've actually got this Hollyland Mars 400S, and I'm running via SDI from the camera, and it's running over here to this receiver, and it's plugged into this small HD 501. And the reason why I've got it here actually is because the way that I was doing the B-roll, I was actually just kind of turning this by hand, and it was just easier for me to stand right here and not have to look over at this monitor. I just have this monitor, I pulled it over here or wherever, and as I was turning it, I could just be able to see how it looks right off the bat, and it was much easier to see it from wherever I had the monitor than going looking over at the camera. And then the C200 has the Canon Log 3 sending out over the signal even when shooting RAW. So I have my Canon Log 3 to Rec 709 LUT that I've made, and I'll leave a link to that below, shameless plug for that, just so I can kind of see how it's going to look on the final image. So you can kind of see here, this is really cool, the kind of that blue light throwing that little bit of a halo and kind of subtle lens flare up at the top. I think it looks really cool there. So yeah, that's that setup, and I'm actually powering the small HD through this guy right here. This is like a NextPow 150 watt little battery bank. It's pretty cool. It's got a pure sine wave inverter, a little battery indicator there. It's kind of no frills, but it's pretty cool. A couple of USB right there. Yeah, nothing more to say about it, but it's super light, and it powers this whole setup right here, so I can kind of move it wherever I want. And yeah, it's pretty cool. So that is kind of the whole general setup that I've got. Sorry that was a little long, but now we're just going to kind of turn the lights off and on, and you can kind of see how each of these lights affect the overall image. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to turn on the blue light, kind of that overhead light, and that's what you can see there. So basically it's just kind of giving this this halo effect right here, and it's just kind of giving this cool like rim effect right here, and it's just this really cool blue hue. And then next up we'll turn on the 120D, and you can see that's really just throwing on a little bit of a kick on this side right here, nothing crazy. And then we'll turn on the Aperture F7, and you can see all that did was just throw on this little kick right here. So to give you an example of that 120D, what it's doing is you can just see just a little bit, and as I turn it, you can see that light just kind of reveals really subtly as you turn it. So I think it looks pretty cool there. Well, I hope you enjoyed that little lighting breakdown of the kind of the product B-roll and kind of how I achieved the look that I did. I thought it turned out really cool, so I wanted to share that with you. So definitely give a thumbs up if you enjoyed that. But since I got this cool backdrop and all that kind of stuff set up, might as well use that to talk about the Andycine A6 Plus monitor. This isn't going to be a super in-depth tech specs review, and I'm not going to go over all the features and the menu and all that kind of stuff. There's a ton of videos out there that do a really good job of that. This video, I'm really just going to talk about my overall thoughts real quick, things I like, don't like, and all that kind of stuff. So first of all, just the things I like about it. It's touchscreen, so you can do like pinch to zoom and stuff. That's pretty cool, and you can kind of navigate through the menus and stuff with using the touchscreen. So I think that's really cool. I do also think it's really cool. It actually ships with this little monitor or this little battery right here, which is really awesome. But if you don't, if you run out of battery life, you can actually power it as well with a Canon LP-E6 battery. So just on the other side, you can power it that way too. So if a lot of people have these laying around as well. So that's pretty cool. Another thing I do like is it has a pass-through HDMI, so it has HDMI in and out. So I really like that. So you can kind of use this HDMI in to obviously coming from your camera, and then HDMI out, you can send it to like a wireless feed, like using like a Teradek or this Hollyland system or something, to like a Video Village or Director, or even like a First AC to pull focus. So yeah, pretty cool there. And then this little DC out, it's pretty cool too, because you can actually use it to power your camera if you have the right adapter, which I don't think it came actually with any cables, but pretty cool that it has that. And then on the bottom, you have a DC in 12 volt, which is really cool. So if you're running like a V-mount setup, kind of like what I was shown in the little B-roll setup on top of my pocket camera, running from a V-mount battery, you can power it that way. So it actually kind of takes extra bulk and weight off of the back of the monitor. So that's pretty cool. And then the other thing I really like is you can actually load LUTs to it via an SD card. Now it doesn't ship with an SD card, which I really think it should, honestly. Especially for the price, but nothing much more to say about it. It's a monitor, it works, the colors look decently accurate, all that kind of stuff. But yeah, overall a pretty good monitor, but kind of move into a couple things that I don't really like about this monitor. The first thing is this monitor mount that it comes with. This one just gets really loose really quickly. It does have this right here, this little, not this knob right here, but this actual knob in between it, and that helps kind of tighten it down, which is cool, but it doesn't really do a great job of that. So I don't know, that's kind of a bummer here. The next thing I don't really like is, although it is touchscreen, the touchscreen doesn't seem to be all that responsive, and it doesn't work as good as I was hoping to. And I mean, the bar is kind of set with iPhones and tablets and stuff like that, and I just don't think the touchscreen is implemented very well. But you do have this scroll wheel, which I find that actually works better using the scroll wheel to, especially with the little quick menu at the bottom, to turn focus peaking on and off, your LUT or something like that. The next thing is the screen brightness at about 500 nits. I think it's 500 nits. It's not the brightest out there. It's definitely not the dimmest out there. But I just wish it was a little bit brighter, especially at the price point. We're going to get to the price point here in a second. But yeah, it's good for indoor use, studio use, and all that kind of stuff. But other than that, it's just not bright enough to use outdoors, especially because of how reflecty the screen is. And these touch screens are just naturally really reflecty. So yeah, that's that. And then the last thing is the price point. At the time of recording this is $229 US, I believe. And that doesn't break the bank, but you got to look at the competition in the market in a similarly priced market. So anywhere from $200 to $300 we'll take a look at. For at $300 price point, at $70 more basically, and this is like without any holiday sales or anything like that, you can kind of bump up to either the small HD Focus or the Atomos Shinobi. And in my opinion, I think those monitors, I've used both. We'll have the Atomos Ninja 5, which is basically the Shinobi without, with a recorder. I've used both those monitors, and I can tell you just the build quality and the responsiveness and the touchscreen, all that kind of stuff is much more superior than this Andycine monitor. And I'm not dogging on this Andycine monitor. Like, in and of itself, it's a good monitor, but I think for the price point, if this thing were, at, $170 or something like that, I think it would be much more competitive, and I'd recommend this a whole lot more. But for $70 more, I would really consider saving up a little bit extra cash and going for like the small HD or the Hdmi, because, although you're not getting like pass-through HDMI or SDI, as far as I believe, you're getting other features like better false color implementation, especially on the small HD. Small HD, I think, has the best false color implementation in my opinion. I love it. It's the best out there in my opinion. But you also can get stuff like waveforms, which is not on this monitor, and vector scopes. But more so than that, you're getting 1,000 nits brightness, or even the small HD, the focus I think is a little bit brighter. And when you start looking at that, you actually have a daylight viewable monitor. And although this monitor is great, you can't see anything out in daylight, when direct sun is blasting on it, as opposed to the small HD monitor or the Hdmi monitor. Daylight viewable is actually possible because you're getting at least 1,000 nits of brightness, and that actually makes a really big deal. So although I really do like this monitor, at the price point I really can't totally recommend it, just because I think there are better monitors out there for not that much more money. Now, if this thing were priced in the $175 range or something like that, I think the conversation would be quite different. But as it stands, I probably honestly wouldn't recommend this at the price point. Now, if you found this on sale or something like that, definitely pick it up, snag it. It's a good monitor. I just think there are better options out there for the price point. So anyways, guys, I hope you found that useful, all that kind of stuff, either about this monitor or the whole setup, lighting setup. If you did, definitely give it a thumbs up, hit a subscribe button, all that good stuff. Leave a comment down below. I'd love to hear your thoughts on the whole setup and all this kind of stuff and whatnot. And if you're still around and you're waiting to leave a comment but haven't really quite found anything to say to add to the conversation, then answer this question. What gift to filmmakers would you recommend for the holiday season? If there's like this one thing that you said, I think every filmmaker should have this, what would it be? Leave it down in the comments below. I made a video, a holiday buying gift guide. I encourage you to check that out, but maybe I left something out. So let me know down in the comments what you think would be like the one gift to get a filmmaker during this holiday season. Well, anyways, guys, thanks so much for watching, and again, I hope to see you in the next video. Peace.